On Friday, Donald Trump posted, "I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings." The president went on, "I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next." Nope, no, absolutely not, Kimmel. I am the martyr, okay? How dare you, sir? Would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism? Go yourself.
Donald Trump couldn't resist gloating about Stephen Colbert's show being canceled, but Colbert hit back with a vengeance, even dragging Jimmy Kimmel into the drama. Why was Colbert so fearless? In fact, almost daring CBS to pull the plug even sooner. It's risky, but the reason will make you question everything. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Stephen Colbert didn't just respond to Donald Trump's gloating, he unleashed what might be one of the sassiest showdowns in late night history. The moment came after Trump jumped onto Truth Social, that online megaphone where he lets his ego do most of the typing to take an outright victory lap. Trump didn't hold back, calling Colbert untalented and mocking him over CBS's controversial decision to cancel The Late Show. He even cheered the network as if he'd personally rung every executive's phone to push the decision through. But if Trump expected Colbert to go out quietly, he clearly underestimated one thing. Colbert had a platform, a mic, and absolutely no interest in taking the high road. Colbert's response wasn't just sharp, it was surgical. He stared straight into the camera, took a brief pause for effect, and dropped the now iconic "Go F yourself."
You may have heard the news. Last week, we learned that The Late Show will be ending in May. Over the weekend, it sunk in that they're killing off our show. But they made one mistake. They left me alive. Over the weekend, somebody at CBS followed up their gracious press release with a gracious anonymous leak saying they pulled the plug on our show because of losses pegged between $40 million and $50 million a year.
It wasn't just the words, it was how he said it. The studio went dark except for a spotlight on Colbert, the eloquence cam as his crew playfully called it. The delivery was flawless, slow enough to savor, loud enough to sting. By the time he finished, the audience exploded, some screaming and others leaping up from their seats. In that moment, Colbert wasn't just the host of a political comedy show, he was a ringleader of resistance. And the crowd, they practically became part of the act. The laughter turned into applause, the applause turned into cheers, and before long, they were chanting his name as if he was headlining a rock concert. If anyone tuned in late, they might have thought they'd stumbled onto a live protest, not a late night show. Colbert's fans didn't just resonate with his words, they made it clear they were standing right behind him. One audience member yelled, "That's our guy," while others erupted in what sounded like cathartic frustration, like they'd been bottling up their grievances and Colbert had just given them permission to let loose. But why did this hit so hard? Why did this one sentence, really just 2 words, turn into such a defining moment? Well, it's not just about what Colbert said, but what it represented. Satire, when done right, doesn't just make people laugh, it gives them a voice.
On Friday, the Wall Street Journal dropped an absolute bombshell. They are reporting that in 2003, Trump sent a birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday that was sexually suggested. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump's letter featured several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with heavy mark. Yeah, it's the most inappropriate birthday gift since Carvel debuted Fudgy the Hung Like a Whale. That means Donald Trump has drawn pubic hair on every executive order.
Humor is one of those rare tools that can punch up while cutting down at the same time. Colbert didn't just clap back at Trump, he symbolized something deeper. Bold comedy feels different, charged even, when the target is someone perceived as powerful, unaccountable, or in Trump's case, all three. Researchers have even explored the psychology of humor during tense political climates. They found that a gutsy joke can validate people's frustrations or fears, while giving them permission to laugh about it, releasing some of that tension. That's what Colbert nailed, a moment that wasn't just funny, but affirming. The timing, though, made this even juicier. Trump had puffed up his chest only days after Colbert delivered a blistering monologue about CBS's parent company, Paramount. He had taken aim at their rumored settlement with Trump, a settlement that Colbert implied wasn't just shady, but downright embarrassing. So when CBS then announced they were canceling Colbert's show, the optics couldn't have been worse. Colbert's audience wasn't just laughing at a Trump burn, they were connecting dots, real or perceived, about why Colbert was being shoved out. As for CBS's justification, well, saying it's all about a financial decision feels about as convincing as Trump's comb-over. Sure, Colbert's show wasn't cheap to produce, but it was crushing in the ratings, often the gold standard for deciding which shows live or die. By adding in these layers of corporate doublespeak and censorship undertones, Colbert gave his fans a new reason to root for him. He wasn't just a comedian, he was the guy willing to risk his position to call out nonsense wherever he saw it. It became about more than just laughs. It was a rallying cry. Colbert's quip may seem like nothing more than a punchline on the surface, but dig a little deeper and it's clear it was also a jab at the very network that signed his checks. Was it risky? Sure, but that's what made it resonate. Canceling a talk show like Colbert's might have been a footnote in media news if he hadn't turned the focus back on CBS's motives. His fans weren't just laughing anymore, they were questioning. Why cancel a show that's working? Why now? Colbert had flipped the script, and here's what makes this so fascinating.
As terrible, using your signature to signify pubic hair is not a behavior befitting a president, with the possible exception of President Bush, but that's it. That is not only weird and creepy, that is pure absurdist dialogue. It reminds me of the end of Waiting for Godot. Well, shall we go? Yes, let's go. They sneak into a teen beauty pageant dressing room. As strange as that sounds, the typewritten part of the letter is even stranger because it appears to be sort of a short, creepy screenplay between Trump and Epstein that goes, voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything.
Rather than back down, Colbert embraced the controversy. By making his infamous retaliation so brazen and public, he's dared CBS to explain themselves further. Was it budget, or was it something bigger? Something harder to justify? Whatever CBS's reasoning, one thing is clear. Colbert has forced them into an uncomfortable position, and the chess game has just begun. Speaking of CBS, let's talk about their explanation, or lack thereof, and why it's quickly falling apart. CBS claims Stephen Colbert's show was canceled due to financial concerns. That might sound reasonable at first glance, except for one problem. The Late Show wasn't just a rating success, it was the top-rated late-night show. So how does the #1 show on television suddenly become too expensive to keep on the air? It's a bit like telling someone you had to shut down a Michelin-starred restaurant because the customers loved it too much. CBS might want us to buy their explanation, but it's not exactly selling. Their official statement made finances the scapegoat, painting late-night TV as a money pit CBS could no longer afford. Sure, the industry isn't what it once was. Streaming services have changed the game, pulling eyeballs and ad dollars away from traditional TV, but canceling your strongest player. That makes about as much sense as benching the quarterback during the Super Bowl. Even Colbert poked holes in CBS's reasoning during a recent monologue, referring to the $40 million Paramount lost on late-night TV. It might sound dramatic, but consider the timing, the flimsy financial excuse, and Colbert's long history of holding powerful people accountable. The pieces don't seem to fit unless you add in one possible factor. Someone, somewhere, didn't like what Colbert had to say. The timing feels less like coincidence and more like a chess move, removing a particularly loud pawn from the board. The scariest part? Colbert himself seems to sense all of this, maybe even more than he's letting on. He's been leaning into the controversy, continuing to mock CBS's reasoning and almost daring them to give a better explanation. He's not retreating, and in doing so, he's made this bigger than just his own show. Whatever CBS's motives, Colbert's refusal to back down has ensured everyone's still watching, and asking questions CBS probably hoped would quietly fade away. Stephen Colbert didn't just lose his show, he turned his cancellation into a statement. By mocking both Donald Trump and his own network, he made it clear he's not stepping off the stage quietly. "There's only room for one on this cross," he joked. And I gotta tell you, the view is fantastic from up here. His boldness calls attention to a troubling trend. What happens when satire becomes too sharp for the people in charge? If CBS's timing raised questions for you, it should. As Colbert himself said, they made one mistake. They left me alive. This story isn't over yet.